Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Hello, welcome to Paris. It's a great pleasure for me to be here, obviously. Gives a lot of hope. Why hope? Because it shows that a lot of things are possible. When they exist, they can actually happen. And it's about time we start talking about fashion and sustainable fashion. I know a lot of you in the room are doing so much in this field. But it's the second largest polluting industry in the world, the second largest. And yet, almost no policymaker was talking about it, even a few years ago. And I decided that we needed to really take this issue forward and actually do something about it. Also because it's an industry that makes people dream. So perhaps let me just tell you a story. I was in Davos, you know, this meeting, with a lot of people actually looking for people like you who have the solutions to their problems. So I was in Davos, and a lot of people, for once, were talking about sustainable fashion. And what they were talking about, actually, was the Fashion Pact. It was one of the basics of their conversations. I don't know if you heard about the Fashion Pact. You know, I can't help being French. So I can't help being a bit arrogant. And I have to say there's something the French are quite proud of, is this Fashion Pact. So what was it? The Fashion Pact is an initiative that gathers about 35 to 40 companies and more than 150 brands all together. They were brought together, all together, to fight not only climate change, so CO2 emissions, but also preserving nature and the ocean. To you, it seems obvious. But for a lot of these companies, this was something that was pretty hard to do. Because it means that you need to change the business models and also the way you design products. And so what President Macron asked, he asked François-Henri Pinault, the CEO of Kering, he asked him to bring 30% of the fashion industry together to do more and tackle the issue of nature and CO2 emissions. And that's what we did within the framework of the G7. And now we have this massive movement of companies willing to be working together. Some of them are like luxury giants, and others are smaller or mass market companies, and yet they decided that they were going to work together in these three fields: the ocean, biodiversity, and climate. Now we want to take things forward. And this is where and why we need all the solutions that you're working on. We need to push them. But what we also need to do is what we aim for within the framework of the Fashion Pact. We need to actually implement it and do it in France. We have no excuses not to be in France, one of the leading countries in the world in terms of sustainable fashion. So we passed a law, well, actually this afternoon is going to be passed, a law on zero waste. It is the first time that a law is actually tackling the issue of fast fashion. How? First, with this law, we are banning the destruction of unsold products. I don't know if you're aware of it, but in a country like France, every year we destroy the equivalent of 1 billion euros worth of goods that could be used, of goods that are new. It is 50 million euros of clothes that we're just discarding. You know, a t-shirt that was not nice enough, didn't sell well. Best case scenario, it is burnt to create energy, but generally it is just sent directly to a landfill. In France, now it is going to be forbidden. And we want all these clothes to be sent to local NGOs, local companies, to actually upcycle them, transform them, turn them into something new, employing local people. But also, we want these clothes to be given to NGOs who work with those who need it the most. In France, 3 million people say that they want to stay home and that they don't dare actually coming out of their house because they feel that the way they're dressed is not good enough because they're too poor to afford clothing. So we want to tackle these issues. So that's one of the key measures of that law. Another thing that we're doing, I'm sure you're aware of it, but the fashion industry is responsible for 1/3 of all the plastics in the ocean. 1/3. So how do we tackle that? First, we need to turn the tide. We need to stop and turn off the tap. How? So what are we going to do? We are going to put filters on our washing machines. It sounds pretty obvious, but we want to stop the flow of microplastics that goes straight to the ocean, in our rivers and then in our oceans. So we're going to put filters on our washing machines. It is going to be mandatory. It's 2.5 million washing machines are sold every year in France. And it's going to be the same for industrial washing machines. So that's the second step. Another one also is that people, consumers, they want to know what they wear. They want to know how the cloth was made. They want to make who actually designed or who did all the work of putting together a T-shirt or something else. So we are going to develop information to the consumer with a label that gives a grade to the product, to the piece of clothes, according to its impact on the environment, but also on social issues. So we're actively working on that, on putting together such a piece of information that will be sticked to every piece of clothes that is sold in France. And that's only the beginning, as I was saying. This is the basics. I want all countries, at least in Europe and in the world, to do exactly the same, to commit to the same as what we did. But now we need to go forward. We need way more. And this is the type of solutions that you are developing here. And what I hope and what I want is to make France a real lab for innovation. Innovation in the textile industry, innovation in fashion. We've been leading in France, in Europe, to some extent. We've been leading in the field of fashion. We need to stay ahead of the trend. This is such a source of hope. It speaks to people, and I think there is so much to change in the textile industry, so I count on you, and I hope that one day it's going to be, obviously there will be a Chanel défilé here, but perhaps one of the composites I'm seeing here will be big enough, large enough, successful enough to actually host one such défilé. So thank you, well done, and I look forward to working with you. Please stay with us, stay in France, and keep working with us to find sustainable solutions in the field of fashion. Thank you.